Was Abraham Lincoln a president?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he was just a whatever public figure.
Welcome back to Delulu Diaries, where the timelines don't match, but the receipts always do. Today we're going to be talking about if Kristina lied about the whole harassment case that she's been bringing to the other people in the LCU. To get us started, I'm going to run through the timeline as best as I understand it, just so that we're all caught up, and I'm going to go as fast as possible. Okay, so back in March during Fat Camp, Kristina sent a picture the day after being banned to Keemstar, Amberlynn, and Gemini saying that she needs to be unbanned because the picture shows that a UPS package arrived to her house. She had her husband shake the box. It sounded like glass, so they opened it outside and it was a box full of glass. Because of this, Keem looks at it very quickly, according to him, and says, okay, yes, you're unbanned, do what you need to do, whatever. So Kristina is unbanned and time passes. Now we're at this week. Tuesday at 2 a.m., a woman calls Tina and says that she knows Kristina in real life, that she used to live in the same state as Kristina, and that Kristina owes her $168. The woman says she has 3 children to feed and she really needs this money. She sees that Kristina's been bragging about how much money she earns, and she knows that Tina works with Kristina, and so she's just asking her to get the message along because she wants her $168. Then, later on Tuesday, Kristina is on Hero while Tina's on Queens, and Kristina gets called into Queens to go over the situation. Tina doesn't really wait for Kristina to respond or talk to her before the stream at all. She just starts yelling at her saying, hey, somebody called me on my personal phone number saying that you owe them money. Kristina then started to cry and said, that's not the situation. I helped this woman. This is not what it looks like. I don't owe her the $168. I said I would help her out by giving her my food stamps, but then she moved out of state, so obviously I could no longer do that. Now 5 years has passed and I don't believe I owe her any money. I was just doing a favor for her. Like, you guys don't fucking understand. Queens and Hero separate, and so we're just going to follow what happened on Hero. On Hero, Kristina expands the story, telling about how this woman was, disabled, overweight, that she helped bathe her, that she helped her with thousands of dollars, and that this $168 was never promised to her. It was just money she was going to help out with food. Keemstar says, well, why don't you just pay her the $168 and be done with it? Kristina says she's being extorted. At this point in time, I believed Kristina's story because she was crying in such a way that made me feel like it was realistic. And I've had friends who have dealt with stalkers, and that shit is very, very scary. So I didn't want to believe anybody has the audacity to lie about it. But now I'm thinking that that is a lie because more receipts have since come out. But anyways, back to the timeline. So Kristina says that all of that happened. They continue on with the stream. Towards the end of the stream, about 30 minutes before the end of it, you see Kristina outside dancing around for a goal. She looks over, sees, people supposedly, and she looks terrified, runs towards her camera, shuts everything off. We don't hear from her for the rest of that stream. And then later on bus, she comes online and says that she just doesn't want to talk about it, but that everything is okay. So that wraps up Tuesday. After all the streams, at some point, Keem takes the host role away and suspends Tina for 2 weeks for solely bringing stuff that happened offline onto the platform because Kristina had never talked about that stuff online, so it's technically out of bounds, I guess. I'm not really clear on how the LCU rules work, but whatever happened, Tina ended up losing her host role for 2 weeks, meaning that she was not going to be paid for 2 weeks. So it's a really big deal that happened, just to give you some clarification on why Tina is so upset. Now, on Wednesday, Kristina goes on Hero and brings up the fact that she was sent that glass package back in March, which now that Kristina has brought it up on her own, it's free reign and anybody can talk about it. Because of this, people did talk about it. During live after the fact, they start going over it, and at that time, Amberlynn and Gemini have a conversation that is conveniently time-stamped, saying that, oh my gosh, do you think that this picture was photoshopped? Look, there's a little AI logo, and it's only after this stuff is brought to light that they take a look at this picture from back in March. Now, all Kristina said about it on the Hero stream was that the glass package was sent to her and that she believes it was from somebody from Glass. She doesn't specify if she thinks it was a host or if she thinks it was a mod or just a fan, but she says that it was sent from Glass to the best of her knowledge, which makes no sense to me because if you know that you have this stalker situation going on, why would you assume that a box full of glass is coming from just a random person? Just because glass is in the box, Glass has to be the one that sends it. That's not really tracking to me. And then connecting to this incident, Kristina said that the reason she ran away terrified is that somebody pulled up on her house, was throwing shit out the window and talking about owing them $168, basically. So she says that it was just really suspicious timing that Tina had mentioned it on her stream, and then all of a sudden these people are showing up to her house, talking about the money and throwing shit at her. Because of that, Tina now thinks that Kristina was going for her role and trying to get her permanently banned from the LCU. At some point, I'm not sure exactly where this falls in the timeline, but Tina and Mike get together. It is determined that there is validity in some text messages that Tina received from this woman that do show that Kristina was owing her money and that she was trying to pay her back and kept requesting like app changes and things of that nature. We don't have access to these receipts yet. I don't know if they're going to come out later, but because of this, I'm leaning towards Kristina just lying about the whole thing all in general, but we'll get into my full opinion on that in just a little bit. Basically, while Live is talking about this incident, after Amberlynn has released the receipts of her and Gemini not understanding what's going on, Kristina leaves the LCU Discord. Keep in mind, at the same time, Bus is on air, so Amberlynn is on air at this time. Amber says on Bus that they literally found out about 2 minutes before the show that all this happened and that she didn't want to talk about it because her and Kristina are friends. Keemstar comes on to the live stream and suspends Amberlynn, Gemini, and Kristina until a full investigation can be done to figure out what's going on, because it's just getting too chaotic for these people to just be allowed to run wild and say whatever they want while everything's going on. Now, all of a sudden, Amberlynn is crying, saying this isn't fair. Everything always gets blamed on her. Why is it her responsibility? And that it doesn't make any sense because her and Kristina were friends. And I think that's important to note. So I'm just going to throw that in here and we'll talk about it in a minute. But for the main timeline, I think we've covered it all. Now I'm going to get into my opinion. Okay, so there's no doubt in my mind that the photo of the glass in the box doesn't make sense any way you slice it and is definitely fake. I'm going to play the clip right now for you guys to hear what it sounded like when it was being shaken, because it doesn't sound like glass. It sounds more like dry pasta or Lego.
Yeah, let Thicc Gemini do it.
That's not glass.
That's not glass.
Like, when I first watched it, my brain was like, okay, just believe her and move on. Like, you know what I'm saying? But then when now all this information, you hear it and it doesn't sound like glass. Like, Kristina, why would you lie about this?
Amber,
March, I
love
said it
you
sounds like
so
Lego.
much, and I'm gonna say this nicely. They are literally baiting you, and if you don't see this, then you're never gonna understand the LCU. This is crazy.
So to me, that's definitely not glass in there. Kristina was confronted about the sound of the shaking of the box, and even though she was on a panel of like 9 other people who all said it clearly was not glass, her only reaction was to say, I don't know what to tell you. It was glass in the box, and, you know, there's different types of glass, which I think is a total cop-out. Okay, so as for the evidence, Kristina says that she took a photo of the box when it arrived. She had her husband shake the box because they weren't expecting anything, and it sounded like there was glass inside. Then she opens the box and sees that there's glass inside and takes pictures to document that as well. I'm putting the pictures on the screen for you so you can see the watermark. Keep in mind, it's a lot more crisp and clear in an original. This is a screenshot of a screenshot, so it's going to look a little bit blurrier. But in the original, this would be very, very evident. On top of that, the story doesn't make sense to me. You're telling me that you have a stalker that you've been dealing with for 5 years, and you get a package, a mystery package to your door, and it sounds like glass. Look at the way that this box is supposedly opened. You think that you might cut yourself, and so you just rip it like that? I don't think so. I think most people would take a box cutter or something, cut the tape, and then use a tool to pry it open so that it's like clean cut and you're not going to cut your hand or whatever. I don't see how you would tear the box in the way that it's torn and not risk cutting yourself on glass if that's what's inside. So that part doesn't make sense. And then Gemini and Amberlynn said that they didn't notice the watermark, but then at the same time, Amber says that she noticed the watermark and asked Kristina about it at some point. And Kristina said that she took the photo in Snapchat and that's why, but she doesn't know where the watermark came from, which still doesn't add up because Snapchat's not just going to throw some random watermark on there. You know, if they had a watermark, it would be one of theirs. So none of this is adding up, and I don't understand how Amberlynn and Gemini could have not noticed that and that they wouldn't have looked into it, because even if it's my best friend sending me a photo, I might not call them a liar, but if I notice there's a weird watermark in the picture, I'm going to take a look and see what that is just out of curiosity. Or like I would just be worried that that's going to call into question the validity of her receipt. You know what I mean? So anyways, moving beyond that and back to current day, I also think it's really suspicious that this stuff starts getting talked about on live. Amber is supposed to be prepping for her show, but has time to go back and look at these photos and text Gemini to get a conveniently time-stamped proof that she didn't know about the box being AI generated or whatever. That's just weird to me. Like, if it was important enough that it needed to be discussed right away, why not go look at the pictures like while you're on live with Kristina to like show proof or cut it in or something like that, you know? And if it's not important, why not wait until after your shows are done? Like, that the last thing I want to do 2 minutes before I start filming a video is to get into some unrelated stuff. Like, I'm trying to like mentally prepare for what I've got to do, get my notes in order, stuff like that. So I just think it's all very suspicious regarding the glass incident. And I think that that part is definitely a lie. And I think that Amber and Gemini, most likely, even if they did not orchestrate it, did know that something was fishy way ahead of time and just let Kristina roll with it, because glass going down benefits the two of them as well. And really nothing came of it except for Kristina getting unbanned. So if glass got punished for their fans being crazy, then great, because Amber loves to see them being punished. If they don't, then at least they've got Kristina back. So it kind of works out for all three of them if you really think about it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, which is this whole running away from the camera incident. So Kristina comes on Hero and says that what happened was that a car drove past her house and was throwing things. I think she said rocks at one point, but either way, throwing things. And this all happened sometime between 20 and 45 minutes after everything was brought up on Queens. She says that they were yelling about some money being owed, $168 specifically. And so it's clearly connected to this stalker lady or whatever. Now, here's what doesn't make sense to me. You're telling me that either Tina sends somebody to Kristina's house while she's on a live stream like a fucking idiot and tells them to throw rocks at her and talk about money. Tina doesn't give a shit what goes on. Why does Tina care? Why would she care? You know what I mean? She just wants to be left alone and left out of it. Making a bigger deal out of it doesn't make the person stop calling her or anything like that. So there's no reason for Tina to do that. She's creating content for another show, and it's content that could get her fired. So to me, that doesn't track. The other option is that this lady saw that Tina was covering it and then sent these people to Kristina's house, and they did all that. But then, so for 5 years, she could send people to threaten Kristina in real life and was willing to do it, but she waits for it to be on a live stream where there's like potential for evidence, because they're not going to know for sure that Kristina's going to cut off her camera and run off. That for all they know, these people are going to come on screen and like beat the shit out of Kristina on live, which is not funny, to clarify. I'm laughing at the absurdity of the lie, but it doesn't make sense to me. Tina gains nothing from doing it. The person that's trying to get the money gains nothing from doing it. Both of them would be in significant trouble. The only person who could orchestrate this and not get into much trouble, let's put it that way, would be Kristina, because in her mind, there's no way to disprove what she says. You know what I mean? Because she's very careful to say that she's not for sure saying it's Tina and she's not for sure saying it's the other person. So there's no way to like disprove. How do you prove a negative? You know what I mean? How do you prove it didn't happen? So for Kristina, she feels like the most she's going to get is a little slap on the wrist, because there's no proof that it did or didn't happen. And the best case scenario is that Queens, which is Hero's direct competition, is either tossed off the air, or at least Tina, who's the biggest draw, is tossed off the air for a while, if not perpetually. She even comes on and talks to Yo Mama and says she doesn't care about Tina getting paid or not, but that something needs to be done, that Tina needs to be punished. So to me, it seems like it was a big fucking deal. Also, Kristina and Tina have been kind of going at it all week, because Kristina's been watching Tina since she was 13, and Tina called her a liar, and she said she wasn't going to forgive her for that. So the timing kind of lines up for this to be something that she did to piss Tina off. As far as if Amberlynn and Gemini were included in this part, I feel like, I don't know. It is riskier. I would say that I would be a little bit more cautious of saying that they definitely were involved in this part. But it does make sense, because if you think about it, I posted that whole video yesterday because of how unconcerned they were about their friend. Kristina had popped off of the live several times and then eventually gets like this terrified look and runs off, and Amberlynn's laughing. So some of you guys even clocked it in the comments that it would make sense for her to laugh if it was scripted, because she's laughing because she knows there's no real danger, and she's laughing at how good of an actress Kristina is. So I don't know. Like, I would say my final opinion is that as far as the glass situation goes, I'm like 100% sure Kristina's lying, and I'm like, I don't know, I would say 70% sure that Amberlynn and Gemini knew about it and allowed it to happen, and that they only said they figured out that it was fake last minute to kind of save their asses. When it comes to the car situation, I would say that I'm pretty sure Kristina's lying. She says she has a camera outside, a security camera, and so if that's the case, she could send Keemstar the footage of this car driving by. But I would say I'm like 95% sure that Kristina's lying about this car situation just because she's lied about everything else. And her story doesn't make sense, you know? And as far as Kristina pulling Amberlynn and Gemini into the lie, I'm like 50-50. Because on the one hand, they have a lot to lose by being in on this. But on the other hand, their action on the stream kind of does lend itself to them knowing what's going on. So what do you guys think? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think that Kristina's telling the truth? Do you think that Kristina worked alone? Do you think Amber and Gemini were in on it? I know a lot of people say that they think that Amber is too stupid to be in on it, but like, I don't think she orchestrated it, but I definitely think it's possible that she knew about it. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. I'm really curious. If anything else comes about this, I'm going to go ahead and give that precedence to cover above anything else, but we're going to see. As of right now, Gemini, Amberlynn, and Kristina are all suspended. I believe Kristina is fully out of the LCU, so I don't think we're going to see her on Hero tonight. I don't know if Amberlynn and Gemini are going to continue working without pay, but I don't see them having any other options, and suspensions frequently are lifted very quickly in the LCU, so I think that they'll probably be around. So I think that about covers it. I want to give a quick shout out to my docket team as well as to Amber's Sympathy Bone for putting together all of the visuals on this video. I really appreciate her for doing that. I also want to say thank you to you guys. I love reading your comments. You guys are so smart and come up with stuff that I don't even think of. So keep coming in with those comments because you guys are giving me some really good insights. And you already know, if you made it this far, stay Delulu, but not that Delulu. See you in the next one.